Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Studio 78 podcast. I am your host, Nashay from NashaySnow.com. That's NACHESNOW.com. Welcome to part 2 of the branding series on the podcast. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, actually I have a video instead of just a screenshot. So hello everyone on YouTube if you're watching me right now. I'll try not to be too weird. Anywho, I hope you guys got to listen to Robyn Young last week. She did part 1 of the branding series talking all about your why and how to kind of define that, because that should be part of your brand strategy. So I thought that was a great way to kick us off. If you didn't check it out, you could just look for episode 56 on iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube and just listen to that. You can also go to nashaysnow.com/56 and that will give you the show notes. And in there, I tried to do a good job of laying out like the different questions that she broke down for us. You can use that kind of as a worksheet. All right. So today we are going to talk about how to do visual branding. So I think last week I explained to you guys that probably my jam is more visual branding because I'm a graphic and web designer. And branding in general is very broad. Like you have like just a brand, which is a category of products that are all made up by a particular company and all have a particular name. So that's just like the general brand. But then you have branding, like the visual branding, what I'm talking about today. You've got brand marketing, you've got brand strategy, you've got brand loyalty. I mean, it's just all kind of brands. But today, I am just focusing on your visual brand and things that you need to consider for that. So it's just me today. I interviewed somebody else this week that'll talk more about brand strategy. And then I'm also going to have Jess Creative come on to really talk about websites. And then we're going to dive into video a little bit more. That'll end the brand series. But today, you just have me. So I'll be quick, promise. But I'll also try to make this media enough that you have all that you need in order to create a really strong visual brand that will set you apart from your competitors. So first of all, let's just talk even about like what a visual brand is. So think about it's like graphical elements like typography, color, imagery, the design elements. And it's what you use them in, right? Like your logo, your website, your social media graphics, your stationery, packaging, anything that has your name, your logo on it that goes out into the world and people see it and they're supposed to recognize that this is your brand. That is what a visual brand is. So think of it as anything someone sees that is related to your company or to you. All right. A good example of this, Starbucks, okay? You go into any Starbucks store, they all have the same look and feel from the walls to the floors to the cups, everything to the uniforms, right? You go into a store, you see Starbucks products, it's like you plucked it right out of the store. It's consistent, their colors, their brand, the icons they use, everything has the same feeling. Another example is some of you guys know who follow me on Instagram. I love the singer Leon Bridges. He has this 1960s feel. So his hair, his clothes, and everything represent like the 60s. But if you look at his Instagram account, you look at his website, you look at his videos, they all have the same aesthetic, right? They have like this modern take of like the 1960s. And no matter where you see his name or where you see him, he exemplifies that brand. Like even down, it's so weird because it's even down to like your clothes, right? Your makeup, your everything, especially if you're a personal brand, represents like your visual brand. If you're more of a product person, it's like your packaging, or like, let's say you have a retail store, it's like maybe more of the focus is on like the store itself and then how you package up the stuff that people are buying. But essentially, it's whatever people see. That is your visual brand. And you need, and this is why your visual brand is important. It kind of reflects the why of your company, which we talked about. People can better relate and understand your story. It helps you stand out from the competition because people see it and they're like, that's so-and-so, or that's X product. People can easily identify your product if your visual brand is done well. And it allows people to like form a relationship and a connection to your brand. So getting that visual branding right is super, super key. Now, before you just jump in and get a logo and get all this stuff, I say do your research first. With every business I've started, I always do research. I try to figure out who my target audience is, depending what business it is. Sometimes it's easier to identify than, with some businesses than others, but you still need to know who you're talking to, what some of their favorite brands are, how you're going to target them. You need to understand your competitors. Like, I always have like a Google spreadsheet and I list out all my competitors with their websites. And then in my like little notebook or journal, I kind of write the things that are the same with all of them. Like, maybe they all use a certain color, or they all have this aesthetic where they're using large images or whatever that might be. So I could kind of figure out what I like and what I don't like and what I can do in order to stand out from them. And then you need to figure out your design style. So I say create like your action item today is create like a visual mood board or a vision board of what you want your style to be for your company. I mean, literally print some stuff out and maybe glue it to a foam core, or go on Pinterest and create some secret boards if you'd like, and if you don't want them open, and really start pinning things that you think will help you determine like your brand. Okay, you might have a logo Pinterest board, you might have a website one pinning things you like, you might have a color one, you might have, like, let's say if you want geometric shapes that are part of your brand, you might have one for that. But figure that out. And if you already have something like a Pinterest board, look at kind of what you tend to pin and see if any of that works for maybe your brand. Because I think also it's important to realize, unless you're a personal brand, that sometimes, like, even though you like the color yellow and you gravitate to it, if you're selling cars or plants or whatever, maybe that color isn't the best color for your business. Just because you like it doesn't mean it actually reflects the company that you're creating. So just keep that in mind. Okay? So research. We're starting with that. And then, maybe people would say this isn't necessarily part of your visual brand, but I'm going to mention it anyway. Coming up with a business name. So hard. But things to keep in mind if you don't have a business name yet. Check to see if it's trademarked, just in case you blow up one day, you don't want to have to change your name. Check to make sure the URL is available, or the website address, for those who are unfamiliar with the term URL. And if it is, you might want to scoop it up and buy it on like GoDaddy or something. Check to see if the social media handles are available, because you don't want to have to create some real funky social media handles, because if they're not memorable, it could end up biting you. And it's good if it doesn't always work out this way, but it's good if you could keep your name consistent across all the major social medias like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and even YouTube. Because when you're sharing certain things, or when people are searching for you, it's just easier for them to find you. Let's see. And Google whatever you're thinking about just to see what comes up, because maybe something that maybe you come up with a name and when you Google it, something else is already dominating the Google search. Maybe you'll find that somebody already has your name and you need to figure out if they do, are they in the same industry? Are they in the same state? Because you don't want to be caught up in a case where you end up having to change your name. So just as you're creating your business name, think about those type of things. If you already have a business name, it doesn't hurt to see if it is trademarked or Google your business and see what comes up and see if you are dominating the first page. Okay, next. All right, we're rolling. Design elements. All right, so earlier I said that what makes up, your brand is really at the core, it's these design elements like color, typography, the mood, and the design style to me. So basically, color is super important. I mean, look all around you. Everything is branded with color. Even if it's just black and white, that's color, right? And depending on what it is, it makes you want to buy something or not, or look at something or not, right? Or, maybe, have you ever looked at something and then the color just doesn't seem to go with whatever the product is and it makes you hesitate to buy it? Color is super, super important. So, and there's a lot of symbolism too that goes into color. In the show notes for this episode, nishesnow.com/57, I have a link to an article that talks about color symbolism. But getting the color right is important. Knowing that with design elements, your business is going to grow, so there is an opportunity to change and morph, but just know it's important. Typography, font is everything, I swear. It sets the tone of your brand. Are you going to go with a script, a serif, a sans serif font? Is your font going to be chunky? Is it going to be thin? Is it going to be modern? Is it going to be contemporary? The fonts that you decide to use, usually you'll choose maybe one or two styles. You're going to use consistently across different things. You're going to use it in your printed material, you're going to use it on your website, and you're going to use it in your social media graphics too. And then anything else that needs to have your logo on it or explain what you do or what product you sell. So you want all those things to be consistent and have the same type of font treatment for the most part. So just kind of think about your brand and what type or typefaces really represent you. Okay, so the next thing is mood. Are you a happy brand with super bright colors, or are you more earthy and muted? Is it feminine, or masculine, your style? Are you artsy? Are you playful? Is this a luxurious brand? Do you really want it to have illustrations, or is it kind of grungy? Are you corporate? You need to really figure out your design style. I've also, in the show notes, linked to a visual guide to design styles that I found on the internet that I thought was pretty helpful for those of you who want to dive more into that. But those are the things you should think about. So those are just the design elements. So as you create your mood board, see what you're picking, make sure that your mood board consists of different fonts that you like, different images that you like, and then anything else like logos or whatever else. Really just so you could figure out what your style is. Okay. Creating a logo. I highly recommend paying a professional. You can find professionals on Upwork and 99 Designs, amongst other places. It's even better if you know somebody who has an amazing logo and they're willing to maybe give you their designer's name. So I would, if you have seen a website, or you know someone who you're like, wow, I admire their brand, ask them who their designer is. Because sometimes it's really nice to have someone that's local. But if you can't, you can find designers online and through those sites that I mentioned. Just make sure that it's someone that's good. So these are musts for me. Okay? So if you do decide to go with a professional designer, your logo needs to be vector instead of raster. And all that means is it's scalable. It's not an image. It's created with, I guess, lines. I'm probably not explaining it 100%. But essentially, because it's not an image and it's created with a series of lines, shapes, whatever, the logo is scalable. So you could put it on a big banner without it getting all fuzzy and pixelated, or you can make it really tiny. It's just really scalable. So any designer worth, I don't even know the saying. What is it? The pot of gold? I'm terrible with sayings. But any worth their weight in gold, I think it is. They are using Adobe Illustrator. If a designer tells you they're using Adobe Photoshop to create your logo, run fast. And then once they create a logo that you like, make sure that you get it in all black, all white, and full color. Also make sure they give you large sizes, which are in small sizes, so low and high resolution. And they should give you a variety of formats like JPEG, PNG, and EPS. And all of this is in the show notes, so you don't have to write any of this down. But a JPEG is what you use probably every day to post on your images on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. A PNG is something that's saved out with its transparent background. So like, let's say if you see a logo floating on a website behind with a color behind it and there's no white box, it's because it's transparent. So you want definitely to get your logo in a PNG format. Also, you want to make sure that you get your logo in an EPS format, which is good for printers. And if you are going to be working with multiple designers, you want to give the designer an EPS format, because that's almost like giving them the native file, and it'll allow them to scale and recolor or do whatever they need to do for your branding material. Okay? Okay, home stretch, people. Last little bit, your website. I'm not going to go into this too much because I have Jess Creative coming on, Jess from Jess Creative coming on to talk about websites and content. But I'll just say a few things when creating your website. You, of course, need your URL to purchase that. You need to decide what platform you're going to be on, Squarespace, WordPress, or Shopify. And I'll go into that later in this branding series, which one is best. Then, of course, once you have your URL and choose your platform, you'll need to create a website. And you might choose to do this by yourself, or you might choose to get help. And then you'll need to look for templates that will allow you to showcase your message and your products. So if you do choose to do this yourself and you use any of those platforms, you need to choose what's called a theme, which we'll go into in the other episode, that best represents you. Some other helpful tips is you can set up an email address on Google, which is really nice, a business email. Like if you guys wanted to email me anything, you would email it hello@nishesnow.com. And so Google allows you to set that up really, really easy, and it integrates with Gmail. So I love that. So definitely take advantage of the Google App Suite. And then think about if you want a tagline for your website. If you already have a website, just a few tips. Make sure your social icons are linked. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to people's pages to find out more about them or to follow them, and their social media links are broken. So just check yours, and if you don't have a website, just make sure they work. If your website is kind of slow, just try to make sure you compress your images. And if you're using WordPress, try not to use too many plugins because that will also slow down your website. So that's all I'll say about that. Just know with your website, that's a huge part of your brand. So when it comes to color and typography and really having content that converts, it's really, really important. But we'll get into that later on this season. And then also a newsletter. And this is really important because it allows you to engage with your customers, not through social media, but on a more personal level. And everybody should be collecting email addresses. So with your website, you should have something set up where you could collect email. So it might be a little widget on the side that says, sign up for my newsletter, or it might be a lead magnet where you might say, hey, grab my free guide on X, and then people give you their email address in exchange for whatever guide you've created. And then you just have to make sure you're sending it out on a pretty regular basis and making sure it's content that's worthwhile. And the two platforms that I recommend for this are MailChimp or ConvertKit. MailChimp is free up into so many subscribers, and then you have to pay. And it's more visual too, so if you think you're going to have more images and so forth in it, I definitely recommend MailChimp. ConvertKit is paid. It's really for somebody who needs something more robust, and if you're going to have like a lot of sales funnels and you need to really kind of segment your list, then ConvertKit is like for you. Okay, so let's talk about your social media. And so if you already have social media accounts on different places, here's some things to look at right now as we're talking. If you're by your computer, if not, go to the show notes and just maybe check this out later. And I told you guys too, at the end of the brand series, I'm gonna have this guide that has information from all the episodes that you can download to print. But you should have the same bio pic on all of your social media accounts, because that just allows people to know that they are in the right place. So sometimes, like maybe if I'm tagging somebody on Facebook, I know that I'm tagging the right person when I see their little avatar come up, and I've also seen it on Instagram. So I'm like, ooh, this must be the right company, right? So having your bio pic the same on every place, I think is really key to making sure that people know that it's you or your avatar, because it doesn't have to be a photo of you. It could be your logo or, illustration of you, a watercolor of you, whatever that is. It should be the same on all your social media accounts. Your banners on like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube should all connect somehow. They don't have to be exactly the same, but they should represent your brand. So just think about that. And you can pay somebody to create your banners, or you can create your own on applications like PicMonkey, Canva. Just make sure you're using the fonts that you've identified for your brand. Stay within the color range of your brand. Just make sure it still feels like you. Make sure you add a good description or paragraph, on your social media account so people really know what you're about. Determine how you're going to use each platform and determine what image, videos, quote cards, and graphics, what they'll be, So for example, for images, I think some Instagram accounts are really good. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll try to maybe find some and do some screenshots up here. But you, like, if you decided like to have like a moody or earthy look, your images, or brand rather, your images should reflect that moody, earthy, bright, artsy, whatever feeling your brand is taking on. your images should reflect that, your video should, your quote cards, your graphics. So you just need to think through how you're going to connect all these different things so they feel like your brand. And then I mentioned Canva, PicMonkey, Over app. Those are all places that you can create graphics of your own. Just make sure you stay consistent. And then on YouTube, so, we'll talk a little bit about this with Jess, but video is huge right now. So if you're not on YouTube, you might want to get on YouTube, maybe even if it's a video a month, get out there and share your expertise. But what's really key on YouTube are the images that people see, like the thumbnail images. And when people go to your page, you should have kind of a consistent look to those thumbnail images. So just kind of think about what that would look like as you're creating maybe some of your graphic templates. And templates are great. Like if you could have a template for your quote cards, a template for your videos, like let's say if you use something like ViscoCam to edit your photos, if you use the same filter every time on your photos, like the more processes you can set up, the better it'll be. And, I just throw this in here and just think about what hashtags you want to be known for. And then for Instagram, I use UNUM, so UNUM, to plan out my Instagram account. And before I even post something on Instagram, I know if it's going to look good next to something or on top of something. Some people too use Planoly. So I think that one is a paid one, but the UNUM is free, even though they do have a premium account too. Printed products and packaging. This is so key. When I was running my business, creativeroute.com, I'm on a break right now, but what people really, they love the product, but they really love the packaging because I put a lot of care into making sure that when they opened that package that they were like, wow, nice tissue paper, I did calligraphy for the address. I just tried to add an extra touch. Like even for the Life Cleanse that I'm selling now, like I also do calligraphy or hand lettering on the boxes. I put washi tape on the boxes too. I wrap stuff in tissue paper. I just try to make sure that there's an experience the person is going to get when they get the Life Cleanse, because it is a premium product. But whatever it is, even if it's not a premium product, you want to make sure that it looks good and it's clean. Like I received like a beauty product once, and it made me not want to use it because it just looked like it was already wet in the package, and the packaging just didn't look real clean. Like for me, I'm not gonna order that product again, right? Like, because I'm just like, ooh, this doesn't seem right. So definitely you don't want to break the bank making your packaging beautiful, but you do want to put some thought into it. And on the website or on the show notes, nashesnow.com/57, I give you some places where you can purchase packaging like Uline and Lumi, and then places where you could get like custom boxes like Brand and Color, Collad, and Packlane. And also you want to get make sure your business cards, flyers, and any other stationery or printed material is consistent too. And there's a whole bunch of great places to get those printed, like Move, Vistaprint, Smart Press, Locta, and some others. But just remember that these things should have the same look and feel, right? Everything should have your logo on it, the colors that you've chosen, and no matter how it's designed, it should feel like your brand. That's really it, y'all. The only other thing that I can say is voice dictation and tone. So like even for me, Studio 78, I have a certain tone. It's like, hello and welcome to the Studio 78 podcast, where the Can I Park Here podcast is different. There's a recorded intro from a professional at the front, and then Estrella and I come in and we're like, hey guys, welcome to the Can I Park Here podcast, right? But there's a different tone because it's a different brand, right? And I want a different feeling. So if you're doing something like a podcast or YouTube videos, you need to figure out like what your tone is. Like if you look at my YouTube account, and you look at my videos, or if you've made it this far through this video, if you're looking at the video, or even listening to the podcast, if you've listened to my podcast before, I talk the same, right? Like my tone is the same, my humor is the same, like this is me, this is part of my brand. So either people are going to resonate with it or they're not, but they know no matter what, they're going to get a consistent sound from me, right? A consistent tone. So think about that as if you decide to get into video or podcasting. Props and styling. Think about that when you get like your photo shoot done. And I didn't even mention that. My goodness, you need professional photos. I'm only going to say this once, folks. You got to have some professional photos. You don't have to break the bank, but you need photos that you can send to people. Like let's say if I interview you, you should have 1 or 2 amazing photos that you can send me that's high resolution, that's clear, that feels like your brand. You gotta invest in it. But anywho, even with those photos, the photos that you do for your products, if you decide to do it yourself and not pay a professional photographer, they should all have this like a same look and feel. Like you'll see some folks might always take their pictures of their products on a wooden surface or a white surface or whatever it is. But whatever you decide, it needs to be consistent and it needs to feel like your brand. And then music, I can't even, if I find it, well, I know where it is, but I'll play the music right now. Okay, so if I found it, I played it and cut it in. But that was the music that I was initially going to use for the Studio 78 podcast, and then I told a few people, I played it for a few people, and they were like, no, Shay, that is not you. And then I changed it to the intro that I have now because it just felt right. So that was a super quick overview. If you have any questions, hit me up on social media. Hit me up at hello@nashasnow.com. Leave a comment on the show notes page, nashasnow.com/57. And I'd be happy to answer your questions. I'm sure there's some things that I didn't go over, but essentially you just need to know whatever your brand is, your visual brand needs to reflect that. It needs to evoke a certain feeling, and you need to make sure it's consistent across all platforms, and that is printed or online. All right. Well, that is it for me. As always, I'd love it if you could leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. Thank you to the folks that have already done that. I really, really appreciate it. If you are on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and like this video. That helps me out. And please share this. If you know of a business that needs to hear this, share this video or share this podcast episode. I'd love to get the word out and make sure that we have more beautifully branded companies that effectively tell a story. All right. Well, I am out of here. Have an amazing morning, noon, and night. And I will talk to you guys next week for part 3 of the branding series. Take care.